Hey, so let me start out first by saying I am a total scaredy cat. I didn't grow up watching horror movies. I just rode my first real roller coaster. This last Halloween, I just got the bug and I wanted to be scared. For some reason, I wanted to watch all the horror movies that I missed out on. I wanted to go to haunted houses. I wanted to do all of that stuff. And one of my favorite things to do just in life is talk about scary stories or paranormal experiences and things like that, especially being in theater. It's really common in a lot of theaters because a lot of them are haunted. Also, I will say, I don't necessarily believe or not believe in anything. I'm open to all sorts of things. It's not my job to say whether or not somebody else's experience was real or my own. So I'll just respect whatever's spooky spirit thing wants to come along. It's better to believe and be nice to it than to not believe and then be mean to it and then be cursed your whole life. So that being said, I thought it'd be fun today if I shared some of my personal scary stories with you. So the first one, probably the most paranormal thing that I have experienced, was I was at a theater, and it was Pentacle Little Theater, and that used to be an old, I don't know if it was a jail or a prison, but either way they did executions there, and they had gallows. And the dressing rooms are, I think, where they used to have the morgue or something like that. So they're supposed to be super haunted. And we were just chilling out in the dressing room waiting for a show to start. And I was sitting on the counter so there's the counter and then there's the mirrors with the lights and stuff on them. And I sit on the counter and I'm just talking with my friends. And I've been sitting up there for like maybe a minute now. And then I hear this knocking from underneath the counter. And there was like a lot of little kids in the show, so I was like totally convinced that it was one of them. So I like peeked under the counter and leaned over, and like none of them were there. And the thing that really got me, and then the other people that were there, like there were other people around, was it was like super rhythmic. Like it wasn't creaking, it wasn't just random knocks here and there. It was like a I don't even remember the rhythm, but it was something that couldn't have been accidental, it seemed like. And so everybody in the dressing room just kind of froze. And I think the reported spirit's name was Pablo. And so I was like, oh, hey, Pablo, how you doing? And everybody else was just like, no, Hannah, stop it. And, yeah. So that was kind of bizarre. And it went on for quite a while, too. Like, the knocking was maybe like 10 seconds in total. Again, really long time for like a counter to just be creaking when I've been sitting there the whole time. One time my mom and I got our auras read, and it was all fine and good and cool. And then we're walking around the shop, and the guy that read our auras just kept coming up to me, and he like wanted me to be his apprentice. And he was saying that I had the ability to be like a medium and see the other side and communicate with the spirit world, and that I even had the power to do like Reiki healing, which is where you just like hold your hands over the body, a person's body, and you can heal them without even touching them, something like that. Again, I am not an expert in this, but he was just like, you know, I have like a feeling that you could be really good at blah blah blah. I was like, oh, okay, thanks. Don't really want to ever do anything like that. Ignorance is bliss. I'm just gonna look at these t-shirts. And then he just kept like coming up to us, and my mom was with me too, and he never like seemed like he was trying to hit on me or anything like that. And I was pretty young at this point. I think I was like maybe 16 or something, 17. Yeah, I think it was right when I was starting college, and that was part of the reason why we wanted to get our auras read, because that was like a big shift in my life. And he just didn't really come across as creepy or, you know, perverted or like trying to hit on me or anything. He just like really wanted me to like untap this potential that I apparently had. So that's apparently a thing. I don't know. Ignorance is bliss. That's all I'm saying. There's enough scary stuff in the world already without thinking about stuff outside of this world. So I'm just gonna keep moving on. Keep trucking. Oh, this kind of happened 2 separate times. The first time it happened, and this is maybe me seeing, I was definitely seeing a UFO, like an unidentified flying object. But I don't know if it was an alien saucer or what. But the first time it happened, I was in my house in Florida, and I was looking just kind of outside at the stars. I do that sometimes. And I think I was like coming into the house, so it was pretty chill. I wasn't like looking for anything. And I remember seeing a really bright, for the night sky, a bright orange orb, like just a circle. It was kind of like if you imagine a star, but it was just way bigger. And it was kind of flickering like a star or like something that's alive, or I don't know if it's the stars or the planets when you look at them and they look like they're kind of changing colors, but that's what it was doing. But it was like orange, reddy, yellow. And it was just sitting there, and I have a basic understanding of constellations and where planets are and what planets are chilling out when, and it was not in any location that I knew of. I could tell it wasn't a plane because, again, the light was so big compared to what a plane would normally be, and also it wasn't flickering that like red to green or bluish thing like planes normally do. Is like a solid orange, just a circle, and it was just in the sky. There was two of them, I think. Yeah. There was 2 of them chilling there. And then it looked like they were getting bigger, like closer and closer, and then eventually they like went farther and farther away until I couldn't see them anymore. But it just looked like it was getting larger and then disappearing. It wasn't necessarily close enough for me to see a shape other than a blob or anything like that. So that, and I wasn't scared either. I was just kind of like, what is that? Like, I don't know what that is. And I remember I had a astronomy app on my phone, so I held it up to the sky to see maybe if it was a planet or a star that I wasn't aware of, and it wasn't. I don't know. And Pentacle is a Navy base, so we do have lots of planes and stuff flying overhead all the time, and I'm really used to that. And it didn't seem like anything I had seen before or since, until a couple months ago we were in Ohio. I don't remember what city in Ohio, but we were in Ohio, and I was jogging around the neighborhood kind of at dusk, and then I started a walk because I was, running and then walking, and then I'm looking at the sky, and right about at the horizon I see kind of a similar thing. It was a big orange orb, like really big this time. I remember thinking, like, if you see a street light on the side of the road, it was like that size but in the sky, so like super big compared to everything else. And I remember just like looking at it and wondering what it is. Again, I downloaded the app for that purpose that night because I was so confused as to what it was, and I pointed it at the sky, and again there was nothing there. And then eventually it kind of got dimmer and dimmer and dimmer until it faded away. And it wasn't even like the horizon, like, how the earth rotates, so it looks like the stars are rotating out of field of view. That was not what happened. It would stay in the same spot, and then it just got dimmer and dimmer and dimmer until I couldn't see it anymore. And that was pretty, again, not scared, but I was just so confused, and I just wanted to know what it was. Okay, next, I was in a log cabin in the woods in Mississippi. It was a family friend's cabin, and there is nothing aside from this cabin for miles. And even what is within miles is just that family's other houses. There's not really any anything, no stores, no huge roads, anything like that for miles, and it's in the middle of these really dense woods. Spooky, scary. I would never go outside at night because I was just too scared of bears or Bigfoot or something like that. One time during the day, there was an abandoned rock quarry further down, and then around the quarry was some water. Well, one day I'm sitting on the island of the quarry, and I see across the man-made lake thing deer just like booking it. Like they're obviously running from something. I was like, okay, it's just deer. And then like a couple seconds later, I heard this noise, and I have no idea what it was. I'm pretty familiar, again, with like animal sounds and things like that, and I know deer and things can have odd sounds to them, but this was not anything in the woods that would make any kind of sound like that. It sounded almost like a scream or a yell, something like that, but it sounded as if it had to be made from like a human, or I remember thinking it was like a chimpanzee kind of sound. But again, we're in Mississippi, there's no chimpanzees. And I heard that right after I saw the deer running. So, may or may not have been Bigfoot. I don't know. I've never heard anything like that before. It scared the wits out of me, and it was the middle of the day, and immediately after hearing it, I got my stuff and I got in the car and I drove back home and I locked myself in the house. It was very bizarre and very eerie. And again, deer running away clearly from something. They were scared, and hearing this like yell, scream thing. Immediately afterwards, it seemed as if that they were running from that sound, and that sound came in the direction that what they were running from. So my best guess is maybe Bigfoot. I don't know. Didn't see anything again, but it was pretty spooky, and I don't know what that sound was. The scariest thing that has happened to me isn't so much like paranormal, supernatural, but like real life. And one time I was bowling with some friends in Pensacola again. I had to get my socks out of my car, and I had accidentally went into the bowling alley without grabbing my socks. So as I was walking outside of the bowling alley to my car, this guy was like kind of catcalling, and he was like, hey you, come here. And then I was like, obviously, okay, you're weird, you're creepy, kind of scary, just gonna keep walking. But then he said, come back, don't walk away from me. And that's what really startled me, is because like I've been catcalled plenty of times before, and it's normally just something like, hey beautiful, or smile, or you shouldn't look so sad, something like that. But I remember him specifically saying, don't walk away from me, being really creepy to me. And then I just locked myself in my car, and I texted my friends what was going on that were inside the bowling alley, and I waited like 10 minutes or so, and then quickly walked back in, and they were gone, thankfully. But I just remember he was like yelling at me to come back, and that was very startling to me, more than any other catcalling, creepy kind of experience that I've had. Another time, my current boyfriend Brandon and I were driving to Walmart, and we see this guy just running, just a white guy, maybe in his late 20s, early 30s, just like booking it down the street. And then we see like police cars coming after him, and then one of them like pulls over, and they get out, and then they chase after this guy, and then he takes the running guy has his backpack, and he takes it and like throws it into a bush and just keeps booking it away. And I just, like, Brandon and I were sitting there like, what is happening? Like, this guy is like being pursued on foot. He had something in his backpack. He just threw it into the bushes, and like other police officers saw that he throwing his bag in the bushes. So it's not like we were witnesses and not coming forward with anything really. But that was just kind of bizarre and odd that you don't see every day. Like this guy, we didn't actually see him get tackled, but totally knew that it was like coming because those cops were like booking it and he was not as fast. But I always wonder, like, why was he being chased? What was in his bag? What did he do? Like, I want to know. Oh, one more. It was at UWF. I don't remember who it was. It was something like a friend of a friend's story, something kind of close to the girl that was telling it to me, but not like firsthand experience. But anyways, there was this girl who was dating a guy, and they, I think, went on one date, and he was really bizarre and kept like trying to get her to come over, and she said no, and he was just really creepy, gave her weird vibes, but they did kiss that night. And then she never saw him again or anything like that because she just got weird vibes from him. And then I think like a few weeks later or something, she got this weird rash on her mouth, and she went to the doctor for it, and they said something like, oh, that's weird because this rash only appears if you eat human flesh. And the girl's like, I don't eat human flesh, so. And the doctor would have said something along the lines of, well, has your mouth touched anybody who has eaten human flesh or something? And she remembered the guy that she had dated. So apparently they called the police or something and investigated that guy's house, and he was like a murderer and a cannibal, apparently, and eats people. And so the girl was like pretty worried that if she had in fact gone over to his place or hung out with him longer, that she could have maybe been murdered or something. And I think they put him away. But again, this is like a secondhand, third-hand story, so I'm not exactly sure how true it is. But like, that's so weird and bizarre. And also, Florida is kind of cool because Ted Bundy was caught in Pensacola, Florida, finally. And then he also had his string of murders at Florida State University in Tallahassee. And I have a very close family friend who was actually attending Florida State, or FSU. He was attending FSU at the time that Ted Bundy came through and like murdered these girls at the Alpha Chi house, I believe. And he actually, I think, was in the building behind the house where the girls got murdered. And he said that the next few days when police were like marking out where Ted's moves were and stuff like that, that it went like by his dorm or apartment or whatever housing there was, and it went like straight through his yard to the girl's house. And he was like in attendance when those girls unfortunately lost their lives. Also, while I lived in a dorm at UWF, first of all, let me just say that UWF is one of the safest campuses in all of Pensacola, in all of Florida. Since we were on campus, all of us just walked everywhere. That's just what you did. And everything is really well lit. And I had a friend who lived in Pace, and we had some classes together, so like knew her well. And she was walking back from the library to Pace Hall. There was a guy that held a knife to her throat, and she was able to somehow get away. I don't know if they ever found the guy. At least when I was there, they never told us that they had ever found him. He just kind of ran away, and nobody ever saw him again. It's just amazing that that happened so close, like literally right outside where I lived at the time. Like that could have been any of us. Yeah, that's about all the scary stories I have, aside from the normal, unfortunately normal, creepy guy hitting on you in a kind of scary way when you're just trying to sing karaoke with your roommate. So if you have any, let me know. Put them in the comments or something so I can read them and be spooked. And just stay safe and be respectful to anything that might be scary and can hurt you, just to be on the safe side. So spirits, ghosts that come in peace, please don't hurt me. God, please protect me. Ignorance is bliss. Let me know what you've experienced and we can share our spooky stories this Halloween season. Okay, bye.